Welcome back to the Law&Crime Network. The high-profile trial of Doomsday quote mom Lori Vallow Daybell continues in Boise, Idaho. She's charged with first-degree murder, conspiracy, and other charges over the deaths of her daughter, Tylee Ryan, and her adopted son, J.J. Vallow, and her husband, Chad's first wife, Tammy Daybell. Our very own Gigi McKelvey joins us now outside of the Ada County Courthouse. Gigi, good afternoon. So I know that you've been out there. The weather's been fluctuating. The courtroom is crazy. This case is crazy. It's all nuts. You've been doing a great job covering it. But tell us, so far, what you're seeing in the courtroom today, what was the most compelling testimony you think was impactful for those jurors?
By far, it was when Lori's sister, Summer Shiflet, was on the stand, and they played a phone call between the two of them just a couple of weeks after the kids' bodies were found. Now, remember, in the very beginning, when the kids were still missing, Lori's sister went on TV and gave interviews saying that she trusted her sister and she would never hurt them. This call, very different, lots of screaming, crying, and with Lori's sister, Summer, saying you threw your kids away like garbage while you're dancing on a beach in Hawaii.
Yeah, and is that the same sister that she keeps turning to in the courtroom, or is this somebody else?
No, this is her sister that's in the courtroom. She was here yesterday, I believe. Either Summer's husband may be with her. There is a man with her. I've heard uncle could be Lori's brother-in-law. I'm not sure. Lori very frequently looking over, trying to make some kind of a visual connection with Summer, raising her eyebrows, smiling very big when Summer was taking her oath to go on the stand. And you could see Summer looking over at Lori some too, but I think obviously a lot of things have changed in the time since Lori's arrest back in February, and certainly since they found the kids' bodies in June of 2020 in Chad Daybell's backyard. And Summer just made that very clear to Lori. We would have taken these kids. We would have loved them. You know, this didn't have to happen.
And do you think Summer is there in some level of support, or just a person that just wants to watch the trial as it unfolds?
She's been designated as a personal representative of Tylee Ryan, who was her niece. So she's able to sit in during testimony, even though she was a witness. But, you know, I don't know. Nobody's been here since the beginning for her. Could it be they just decided to come sit in a couple of days, not knowing when she might be called to the stand? I'll be interested to see if she's here any more throughout the week. But it's very hard to tell the feelings with Summer because I can't see her. But with Lori, you see her almost desperately wanting to make some kind of a connection with her sister. And I kind of don't get the feeling that's mutual with Summer.
Yeah, Gigi, also talk to us a little bit about the courtroom dynamic. I mean, we've been covering trials in the last couple of months where lawyers are at each other's throats, or the judge. How is the general professionalism of the court, and is it in control, and is each side being allowed to do what it is that they need to do, or do you get a sense that there's acrimony amongst the parties?
It's running like a well-oiled machine in there. There's not a lot of back and forth. There's been some sidebars, but nobody comes back looking mad. They're handling the disagreements they have and finding solutions. I think that the judge has handled the courtroom very well. The bailiffs are great. So, I mean, right now the focus 100% is on this testimony and the facts of the case that this jury will need to decide her fate.
Gigi, we've also been talking about some legal issues, and I know that the judge has not charged the case, but we know that the state does not have a quote-unquote insanity defense, but nevertheless you can introduce evidence that goes to the mens rea or mental state of that defendant. I don't think any of that's coming in from what I understand, because there was nothing provided by the defense attorneys in a timely fashion. Do I have that right?
You do have that right. And according to one of the hearings in the past before trial, Mr. Archibald said she did not want to bring mental illness in as a defense. So in my opinion, they've kind of got some hands tied behind their back. They're newer to this case. Remember, she had Mark Means on her case for over a year and a half. And then once she was deemed incompetent and went away to the Department of Health and Welfare, when she got out, Mark Means was removed for a conflict of interest, and then Jim Archibald and John Thomas put on. So with the amount of discovery in this case and the fact that she doesn't want to use mental health as a defense, I think that they definitely have an uphill battle in convincing this jury that she knew nothing and wasn't involved.
Yeah, Gigi, I want to pin that down a little bit because, again, are you saying that the judge would not permit it because it was out of time, or that the client refuses to go with the mental health defense? Do you know?
My understanding is that Lori did not want to bring mental health in as a defense. It was not the judge. The deadline passed, but that was raised in court by her defense attorneys that she was not intending on using that as a defense in her case.
Well, I would imagine, I'm not sure if you were there when that happened, but the defense attorneys are essentially probably putting that on the record in order to cover themselves from a malpractice action down the road, that they saw a viable legal defense. Now, this is a person, as you note, who was declared incompetent to stand trial, and while that's not insanity and or does not necessarily diminish mental capacity at the time of the incident, do you suspect that that's the lawyers doing kind of a CYA, if you will, so that down the road she can't turn around and say, why didn't my lawyers present the mental defense?
Yeah, I think that they probably covered all their bases. They've just made clear in front of the judge on the record in pretrial motions and hearings that it was her choice not to use mental health as a defense. Although in the past he did say, at one point the public will learn about her diagnosis. So clearly while she was incompetent and away for those 10 months, there were some diagnoses given to her, but she didn't want it brought in. Whether that's a part of her feeling like she's a translated being or what is a question. But the last we heard, she felt like she would be found not guilty. So we'll see how that goes for her.
Well, pride comes before the fall in many cases, that's for sure. But let me ask you a question, and then I want to get into two future questions. Anything about the jury, how they're reacting to any of this? Are we getting any sensibility from them at all?
They're pretty focused. I mean, there's a lot of note taking. I don't think this jury knows much about this case. As they said when jury selection was going on, lots of notes. I have seen times where they've been blown away by some things just based on their facial expressions, some of the bizarre religious beliefs, as well as when they found out that Alex Cox, Lori's brother, was the one that shot and killed Charles Vallow, who was Lori's husband at the time. That threw them for a loop. They had started hearing the name Alex, and then you start getting this framework for this very convoluted story that I think is starting to come into focus a bit for these jurors after a couple of weeks of solid testimony. Yeah,
we often forget that we know so much more about the case than the jurors do, and even that includes evidence that's not being admitted or mental defenses that are not being advanced. Have they heard, the jurors, anything about this demons thing and the Doomsday, end of the world situation, or is that out of the trial as well?
It's been brought in. We had Melanie Gibbons Zulema both, who testified at length about zombies and how they come to possess the body and how you try to get them out. One thing that was very profound for this jury is that, according to Zulema, 2 ways to ensure a demon doesn't repossess the body is to bind the body or burn. And unfortunately, we know Tylee was found burned and JJ was bound.
Wow.
So things like that are starting to fit in, with these extreme religious beliefs. And so, yeah, the jury has heard a lot of this religious beliefs that this group had, and lots of note taking. I think they're going to need new little notebooks before long.
Wow, that's really compelling information that comes out. I'm not even sure I'd characterize religious, but I get your point. Listen,
yeah.
Right? Okay, going forward, what do we expect today?
We don't know. I have heard there could be some graphic testimony coming up later on today, so we will see, but we'll bring it to you right here on Law and Crime as soon as we know who's testifying and what's said.
And just real quick, do you have an estimate of how much more time we got left in this case?
I think maybe a couple of weeks at most. The cross-exam is going really quickly. They're not spending a whole lot of time cross-examining these witnesses, and when they do, it's more directed towards the witness and their training and not really about Lori or even defending her. So it's going much faster than we thought. That's exactly why we didn't have court on Friday. So I really don't think this is going to last a bunch more weeks down the road. I think we're going to be wrapping up sooner than we ever thought we would in this case.
All right, Gigi, I'm going to let you go because I know before we went on air that you're very hungry and you got about 5 minutes to eat your food and get back into that courthouse. So thank you, Gigi, as always, doing a great job.
Thank you.